Hey guys, I am gonna record a quick, quickish reaction video to our mock draft last night. There were 8 of us that showed up, so thanks to Josh, Justin, Chase, Colin, Akie, Lewis, Waldrop, and me. We were all there mocking it up. We did a 13 round mock draft with our settings, and I wanted to go over it a little bit. Um, so we'll just jump into each team, and then I actually want to talk about 3 of the teams kind of together at the end. So I'm just gonna go left to right and give some thoughts. We'll start out with Josh. So I like Josh's team. He built a pretty competitive team with Jonathan Taylor, Jalen Waddle, Lamar Jackson and Dalton Schultz. Gibson right now might be a question mark if you were doing this draft. On Saturday, maybe Montgomery makes more sense just safety wise. You don't really know. Is he actually returning punts right now? That's what people are saying. I tried to look at any sort of deficiencies in this team. You got 2 young receivers in Waddle and Bateman who should be number ones on their team. And then 2 running backs. The RB2 slot and the wide receiver 3 slot are kind of iffy. That's what happens when you take a quarterback and a tight end in your first 6 picks. So that's expected. I think if I were to make up for that fact, though, if you're going to take a quarterback and a tight end in your first 6 picks, I think you got to think about your next couple picks being a little safer than like Gabe Davis and Pickens. I would probably have wanted to go with like Brandon Cooks or Adam Thielen with one of these picks because these are your flex plays, right? You could have even grabbed, other running backs like a Melvin Gordon would have been good on this team. I think it would have been really good on this team. Pretty useful for this year's flex plays. So it just depends on how you want to play it, though. You're trying to balance it out with some younger players that could do something. Gabe Davis was big in the playoffs last year, so we could see him really coming into his own this year. Could be a good flex play. You got Madison to sort of cover for a third running back, but yeah, the running back situation isn't great. But you're spearheaded by Taylor, which is wonderful. Lamar, Schultz, like you're going to be competitive, I think. We'll move on to Justin's team. I think the obvious thing here is he's got a lot of good talent here at wide receiver, and he also paid up for Joe Burrow. So really believing in Joe Burrow here. Go get your guys. Bengals fan, I get it. Makes sense. You get to watch him for a long time and see him succeed. So that makes a lot of sense. So now you've locked up 2 positions for a long time with all these guys with Kupp, Deontay Johnson, Judy, and Mooney. And then I think this is where, at the draft, my first reaction was, I don't really love these running back picks. And I still don't after thinking about it a little bit. Basically, with a team like this, if you don't spend a pick on a running back for your first 5 picks, you're likely not going to be a competitive team. It's hard to be a competitive team. Things have to break your way. And so grabbing guys like Singletary and Edmonds who don't have a ton of upside just to fill out your roster feel like a waste when you could have gotten Sky Moore, Jameson Williams, Cortland Sutton, those types of players. Or, you didn't have a good tight end at this point. You could have grabbed a Pat Freiermuth, or you could have grabbed maybe Dawson Knox, or a younger tight end who could grow into something. Looks like later you kind of grabbed Hunter Henry, who just doesn't have a ton of upside. He's someone that a competitive team might grab just to fill out that roster spot and hope for some points, but he's not a play in Dynasty that you're looking for. I do like the David Bell pick later, and Shakir and Desmond Ridder. Those are all interesting picks. Yeah, but just overall in these kind of middle rounds here, I would like to see more value from these than these three guys, Singletary, Edmonds, and Michael Carter. I just don't think these are like swinging for the fences type of picks that you can afford when I don't think this team's going to be super competitive. I just don't. Like maybe if your running backs magically hit and Singletary and Edmonds are amazing, that's what you're hoping for. Um, then these wide receivers have to all be awesome, which we really do think Kupp will be awesome. Deontay Johnson is talented, but is he going to finish top 12 this year? We don't know what that offense is going to look like. Judy is a big wild card this year. Could be top 12. Who knows? Mooney, I think it's going to get an unbelievable amount of targets, and it's going to be awesome this year. And like you could hit on all these, but is it going to be competitive? I'm not sure. And you got Cooper Kupp to spearhead all that, which is good. So you can see how your team's going maybe in the next year and trade him if you need to. But you're going to have to build running backs through the draft because these guys are probably not going to be household names for long. All right, so we'll move on. We'll move on to Chase. And I'm on the desktop app here. It's hot garbage. If Sleeper wants to fix something, maybe they could fix this. So, all right, so Chase, looking at his team, he's drafting in the 8th slot here. He starts out with Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill, Saquon Barkley, Amari Cooper, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Russell Wilson, and Hunter Renfrow. So this is an older, competitive team. You know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Renfrow are both younger receivers, but really those are your flex plays. You got Freiermuth. Filled out his whole starting lineup, which as a competitive team, I do kind of like that with your first 8 picks, like filling out your starting lineup. So you can be competitive. You're hoping all these guys hit. Injuries are going to be a concern, but you went and grabbed Melvin Gordon for a good flex play if needed. Good fill in for bye weeks. Rondale Moore. A lot of people like him a lot. I'm not sure what to think about him yet, but he has a lot of talent and he's young. I feel like there are probably different guys you could have picked there, but overall, the only thing I really saw with this team were some opportunities to make it more competitive and like really buy into that competitive team aspect. Like, let's say instead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, you bought like a Cortland Sutton instead or a Darnell Mooney. Like, I think Sutton and Mooney are in a different tier than this guy right here, than Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know, this guy plays for Detroit, and he's not necessarily even the number one receiver on Detroit. There's a lot of options in town. He has late draft capital. There's a lot of question marks there. Mooney is unquestionably the number one on his team. Sutton is on a great offense with Russell Wilson. I feel like Sutton would be the obvious one to put here because you stacked with Russell Wilson, right? So Sutton plus Russell Wilson would be some huge weeks for you when Sutton pops off. So that's just something I maybe would have thought about, but you'd be pretty heavily invested in that Denver offense. So your window isn't super long with guys like Derrick Henry. When you start with Derrick Henry, you're basically saying I'm going to win right now because he is actually 28 years old. I mean, this is the year when running backs fall off. He has a lot of tread on the tires, and so we're kind of expecting him to lose it in the next couple of years. So I maybe would have liked this team a little better if you went like Eckler or Dalvin Cook or Kamara first even, to give yourself a little more time. But, you know, Derrick Henry's a beast, so I get it. Got to go get your guys. Let's go look at Colin's team. So right next to him, pretty different approaches next to each other, Chase and Colin. So Colin drafts the first young receiver off the board. Well, that's not true. One of the first young receivers off the board, we already drafted Jefferson and Chase. but CeeDee Lamb going here. So I think when you pick Lamb, do you expect him to be top 5 this year? I hope so. He's got that potential. No more Amari Cooper in town, but he's not guaranteed that elite production like an Eckler or Swift. I would even think like Diggs and Debo, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown are all guys that went after him that I feel like you could argue maybe have a chance at better production than CD this year. But we'll see what happens. I think he's a supremely talented. Dynasty community loves him, so not a bad pick. You got Josh Allen, so locked up a QB early. Also locked up a tight end early with Hawkinson. So your flex plays are going to be pretty rough. In general, grabbed a young running back in ETN, which is fine. You can grab a running back if they're young and hope that they grow into something great. So I like these first 5 picks a lot. You got Devontae Smith on your team, so a couple young, really mega talented receivers. The best QB in my opinion in Superflex for now, for the next few years with his running ability with Josh Allen. And Hawkinson is a darling of the community, so everyone loves TJ Hawkinson. So I get why he goes somewhere around here. Has the draft capital. He should be a big part of that offense, and it's one of the reasons why, I was talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got a battle with Hawkinson. He's got a battle eventually with Jameson Williams. He's got a battle with a pretty interesting offense in Detroit. So overall, I think my issue with this team comes similarly to what happened with Justin's team. So let's just look at Miles Sanders here. I don't think this team has to be competitive this year. With your first 5 picks, these are all very young players, super young players. Like CeeDee Lamb is 23 years old. Josh Allen is 26. That's super young for a quarterback. Etienne's 23. He didn't even play last year. Hawkinson is 25. Devontae Smith is 23. Super young team. And you're trying to fill out your running back room here, kind of forcing that. I feel like with Miles Sanders, what if you just flipped Elijah Moore here? I'd love this team a lot more if you had Elijah Moore here or Ayuk. I like Moore better than as a prospect than Ayuk, but those guys would really fill out your wide receiver room. That would be dope. I also don't like the Goddard pick just because he scored well last year. I feel like you could grab so many guys that are going to score better. If you're just looking for scoring, Goddard's 27. He's on a good offense, and I get that. Maybe he's tradable, but you've already got Hawkinson, and you're hoping he grows into that role of one of the top tight ends. Taking another shot on tight end just feels like you could have taken a shot on a lot of other players. You could have done the same thing here. You could have grabbed a lot of other guys than Goddard. Just kind of trying to look into the board, like Gabe Davis or Pickens are young players that you could have drafted. Chase Claypool's a young player you could have drafted that has all the elite measurables. This dude is 240, 6'4". He's a massive human being. That's kind of what you're trying to win with potential here, and it feels like these kind of later rounds 6 through 10 here, you're just kind of filling out your roster. I do like James Robinson, have a soft spot for him. Do we think Kirk is going to be a big thing? Maybe these are just guys I don't like that much, and you're picking them. So that's those are where my complaints are. But I really like these first 5 picks. You set up your team really well. When you pick, like I said, when you pick 2, a tight end and a QB with your first few picks, you're limiting your flex play, and you're also not picking those elite running backs. And that leads to a team that's probably not going to be competitive this year. Just look over here at Team 11. They have Swift, Mixon, Akers, James Conner. That team with a Jalen Hurts, all they have to do is fill out their wide receiver room, which they didn't because they were auto-drafting, and they could have grabbed, a DeAndre Hopkins Brandon Cooks right here, something like that, Thielen, and filled out a wide receiver room and been scary. That team would have been really scary. You're just kind of filling out your roster here. So there's my rant. So when you get the urge to just draft a running back because you feel like you have to, go grab a talented wide receiver because they're tradable, and someone's always going to want an Elijah Moore. Someone's always going to want an Ayuk. Take a chance on those young guys. All right, so let's move on to Akie, Team 10 here. And Akie's team is also competitive. So kind of in a different fashion here, gobbling up the value at running back. This is an older team, you can tell. Eckler, Chubb, and Elliott kind of headlining the team. So that's a really nice flex with Elliott there. Mark Andrews, so top tight end, scoring probably this year if they use him the same way. If they don't, then Kelsey likely takes over again since Tyreek Hill's out of town. And then Juju is a young receiver. I mean, he's still young. He's 25 years old, and he just joined the best quarterback in the league. Could he put up some big seasons? Very possible. Elijah Moore, love it. Love the pick there. Young receiver, very tradable. And now this is a competitive team. So this is the part of the draft that I start to take a little issue with the picks after 6 here. So we still have a lot of great options for competitive players. So you could have grabbed down here with this Tony Pollard pick. I think this is like hey, maybe Zeke leaves town or gets hurt or whatever. Like maybe you were thinking that with this Tony Pollard pick and handcuffing him, which is fine. But like you could have easily gone with like a DeAndre Hopkins or a Brandon Cooks. And all of a sudden your flex play looks a lot better. You can start like a Cooks or a Hopkins in the middle of the year, right, when Hopkins gets back from his suspension. And with Elliott, and that's a scary team. And you grabbed a quarterback here at 8, so you waited a while on quarterback, which is smart when you have a competitive team. You know, wait as long as you can and get somebody good. Stafford's going to be amazing this year. We know that. I would have liked... I keep beating the drum for Melvin Gordon, but I would have liked in a competitive build, I would have liked Melvin Gordon here at 9.5 instead of Gesicki. If you believe in that offense, the Miami offense, Gesicki could be really good. I also think it's interesting. You maybe could have grabbed Rodgers or Tom Brady in the next round, but that's nitpicking. You still got a good quarterback. So this team's really competitive. Good quarterback, good tight end, really good running backs, and interesting receivers that could pop off. Receiving room is obviously the weakness, so maybe you have to trade a pick in the middle of the season to go grab an older receiver. Maybe somebody's team is falling apart and you get to grab like an Allen Robinson from somebody for your future picks. But those are my thoughts. So then we'll move on to the last 3 people here. So Lewis, myself, and Waldrop, we all drafted next to each other. And we did pretty different strategies. So I thought this was pretty interesting. And I think it kind of progresses young to old. Like if we were to start on the left here, Lewis drafted a very young team. I drafted somewhere in the middle, and Waldrop drafted somewhere closer to like a nursing home team. These guys are old. And so these are like 3 different strategies you can take going into the draft that I think are very viable. Lewis is essentially punting here this year. So he's taking people who are going to be good for a very long time. Kyle Pitts, Patrick Mahomes. Those are obvious, like they're going to be awesome for a long time. In my opinion, Pitts is like a mega talented player. He is treated like a wide receiver, and in that offense, and that's just who he is. He makes crazy catches, and whatever quarterback they eventually get there in Atlanta is going to love him. But that offense is going to be terrible this year. He's not going to be like the number 1 tight end this year, I don't think. He has that possibility, and that's why you draft him this high up. But I don't think this year, with the quarterback and the offense that they haven't invested enough in that offense for him to be awesome yet. Drake London's there. He's going to need a little time to get going. Everybody else outside of that, Ridley's not even playing this year, so not a lot of threats besides Kyle Pitts. He's going to get a lot of attention. I just doubt he finishes top 5 at his position this year. Then you have Patrick Mahomes, pretty much a lock for top 5. Got Pittman, who finished like a high-end wide receiver 2 last year. He finished like 17th overall. So is it possible he takes that next step forward? That was his second year. It's about to be his third year. That's a really big year for wide receivers to break out. So that's really interesting, an interesting pick, but it's a projection. Like, he hasn't actually produced wide receiver 1 numbers yet. So far you've drafted somebody who isn't a top 5 tight end with your first pick. Second pick, you picked a quarterback. All your flex plays are going to be rough, no matter how you fill out your roster later, just because you did that and put so much emphasis there. And then grab 2 receivers with Pittman and Godwin. I probably would have liked this build a little bit more if you could have grabbed some young receivers down here, more receivers, because those are just safe picks. Like, you could have grabbed Chase Claypool, could have grabbed, Cortland Sutton, Juju, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sky Moore, like lots of young receivers would have been interesting. Godwin's just a good value here, so I get that. But like with Pierce, Spiller, White, just a lot of shots at running back, and not a lot of shots at receivers. So to me, like, when I look at this team, you're going to have a long time drafting, probably like 2 years of drafting rookies to really fill out your roster. You're going to try to get, the top pick in the draft and get that Bijan Robinson pick and have the number 1 running back next year, that Saquon-like running back next year to pair with Kenneth Walker. But I would have liked it a little better if you grabbed more receivers that have some interesting upside, instead of just all these running backs. Now, here's the deal why you would grab so many running backs. It's just lotto tickets, right? They're lotto tickets. These guys, if somebody gets hurt, Pierce could be the starting running back for Houston. Probably is, because Marlon Mack's in town there. But Spiller, White, Algier, Zamir White, these guys are all backups right now. And so, I don't know, Tyler Algier might be the starter. Who knows in that offense? I don't even know what's going on in Atlanta. And I don't really care because they're so bad. You've invested twice in them, in this team. So this team's not going to be good this year. And that's okay. But anyway, I would just like a Tony or somebody like that. Grab some young talent at wide receiver instead of all of these picks. Maybe you didn't know that the draft board would fall this way and people wouldn't grab too many of those. But anyway, this is how you build a productive struggle. And I'm thinking, like, this is like a classic productive struggle that people would talk about online. I would just think more wide receiver picks here. You could have picked instead of Walker. Walker was a great value there, so I'm not gonna. And he's young, so he's gonna be good for a long time. But you could have grabbed a lot of different young players instead of Godwin, Pierce, Spiller, whatever. But this is a classic productive struggle. So going on to mine, which is a little less heavy on the young picks. So I start out with Diggs and Devo, Metcalf. So those 3 picks, Metcalf is young, so he's going to be around a long time. Diggs is older, and Devo is kind of the middle of the pack in terms of age. These guys have produced at the highest level and like a lot more than Pittman has. Diggs and Devo and Metcalf have all been top 10 receivers. These 2 top 5. Devo was number 2 overall, number 3 overall. Diggs was top 10 last year and didn't even have a good year. Metcalf was 14th, in PPR, had a really down year for him, but he had an amazing rookie year, so you got to believe it's possible. So then I followed that up with an Olave pick, just a younger rookie taking a stab there. A.J. Dillon is an interesting running back. I love AJ Dillon on teams taking a stab at running back. You know, for the future, and he could produce now. He has the option. He has the ability to produce now. Like Rodgers is talking about him getting 50 balls this year. Is he going to be a PPR machine this year? Probably not. Probably not. But there's not many receivers on the Packers right now, so it could be possible where he's a huge part of this offense. Grabbed Ayuk, younger receiver, and then follow that up with an older quarterback in Dak Prescott. He's 29. That's not old for a quarterback. He's going to be around for a while. He's going to play into his mid-30s at least. And he's had many seasons where he is a productive top 10 quarterback. Still haven't filled out my tight end until grab Penny and Fant. So what can I say about this team? Well, the wide receiver room is awesome. The running back room is questionable, right? You got Dillon, Penny, Brian Robinson, not looking great. You gotta have some things break your way in order for this team to be super competitive. But there's at least a shot at this team being competitive with this wide receiver room. Like, let's say Olave pops and Dillon pops. All of a sudden, you've got an interesting team, and maybe you're just a pick away. You could trade a pick for like a Leonard Fournette or something like that, and take a chance at winning because you built a team that's got a shot at it. I can't really say the same. I don't feel like Lewis's team is one pick away because like the wide receiver room has question marks. If anybody's going to be like that top 10 receiver, I think Godwin has that possibility, right? And that's why I'm okay with this Godwin pick for the most part. It's like he could be a top 5 receiver with Tom Brady this year. Pittman has a lot of upside, but he hasn't been, top 10 yet. But yeah, the running back room, Walker's even hurt right now. Like there's just not a lot going on there. You could say similar stuff about my running back room, but at least I know Dillon's going to have a big part of the offense. Penny could have a huge part of that Seattle offense. So, who knows? But I just like this build for leaning on receivers. And my older players are tradable, I guess is what I want to get at, is like Dak Prescott, Diggs, and Debo are all very tradable players. So if you kind of blend old and young, you can hedge your bet a little bit. And once you get into the middle of the season, kind of look at your team and say, okay, maybe I need to trade Diggs and kind of rebuild, do like a soft rebuild, something like that. So this is a strategy. It's not an obvious, like, when you walk into the season, you know what you're going to do. I probably would like this build a little more if I had gotten like a Josh Jacobs somewhere. I probably could have got him like instead of this Dillon pick, or I don't know what I could have gotten. If I could have gotten a Josh Jacobs instead as one of my running backs. I'm just trying to look to see where he is. This is a garbage app. Josh Jacobs went in the 5th round. So yeah, I could have definitely drafted Josh Jacobs over AJ Dillon, and I think I would have liked this better. I don't know why I did that. I guess just kind of building for the future, but this is my first time trying this strategy, so I think Jacobs here and then a couple shots at running back would be probably a better team for this kind of blended strategy. But this one leans a little bit too much on youth and upside, and not too much at all on the. We've got a few players with the vet experience with Prescott, Samuel, and Diggs, but probably need a little bit more in the running back room in order to walk out of the draft feeling like feeling confident that you could compete, I guess is all I'm getting at. So yeah, I would swap Jacobs for Dillon. Also, I just love Josh Jacobs. Y'all should know that from all my drafting over the years. All right, so let's look at Waldrop's team. And comparatively, like, he grabs 3 running backs in the first 3 picks. These are all stud running backs, right? Studs, absolute studs. And then goes on to grab Mike Williams and Hollywood Brown, both really did well last year at times. Mike Williams at some point was the number 1 overall receiver. Hollywood had some big weeks, and now he's on a big offense. So really interesting. A-Rob, Michael Thomas. But this is an old team. You spent in your first 7 picks. Everybody's old except for like Hollywood. A-Rob is 28. Mike Williams, he's 27. That's not super old at this point. But Hollywood's the only one that's young. Aaron Jones, 27. Kamara, 27. Dalvin Cook, 27. So 28 is the year that running backs kind of fall off, and you've spent 3 picks on guys who are age 27 running backs. Your first 3 picks. So, I think this is a competitive team. I would like this team a lot better, and I feel like you were playing the game here of, like, how long can I wait for a quarterback? These picks right here, Tony and Gallup, I would have much preferred one of these be Aaron Rodgers. Maybe like Aaron Rodgers, Zach Ertz here. Fill out your starting lineup, call your shots, and then try and find some flex plays lower in the draft. I think that would have been a sick team. Like Aaron Rodgers, Zach Ertz, bunch of flex plays, and just, I'm not sure what Tony and Gallup really add to a build like this. You're basically saying like, oh, I need to build a little bit for the future here, but you might as well lean fully into it at this point, after these picks, in my opinion. But yeah, not drafting a tight end at all with your first 13 picks, that's pretty scary. Malik Willis, I don't know. That must have been an auto draft or something. But anyway, so these are 3 different strategies. You can see what's going to happen. This team, Waldrop's team, is a huge gamble. And I like it because it is an actual strategy. It is direction. It's got direction for his team. And we know what he's trying to do. And he's trying to win this year or next year. So that's the big deal here. I think that's about it. That's all I wanted to say. So you can pick between these kind of 3 strategies. I can pretty much pigeonhole anybody into one of these 3 strategies in the draft, like some sort of blended, some younger or older team, and we can see how it goes on Saturday. So let me know what you think. If you got questions, I'm looking forward to it. See you guys soon.